Hi, I'm Angel Davis with Angel Davis Coaching, and I'm here with Mr. Peter Hermes.
Hi, Angel.
Hi. You're listening to Verbally Naked, a podcast devoted to the enhancement of relationships, or so we hope.
Well, indeed, is exactly what it is.
Um, so this week, if you're just tuning in this year, we have decided to kind of take a look at media, which would include quizzes and magazines and movies and TV shows. And we're constantly being bombarded with music. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
We did music last time.
With images or, just constantly, I would say, dealing with relationships and what life looks like from the standpoint of, go ahead.
No, we seem to always be presented with some writer's idea or society's idea of what relationships entail, like a Hollywood writer's idea and a musician, singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
What, what a general perception of a relationship should or does not look like.
And when I'm standing at the checkout counter, certainly, there are just tons of headlines and
who's getting married, who's getting divorced.
Right. It's just
who's adopting children from some far off country.
Right. So we decided, hey, let's look at some of that. Let's look at some of the media that we are that we find ourselves sort of inundated with, and talk about whether or not we think that sort of doesn't measure up to what we feel like is a more realistic idea of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we, like so many people, got into the show called This Is Us.
Mm.
And it was a little bit surprising. I mean, Peter and I, not that we're snobs, but we just haven't. We have Apple TV, and
I'm a total snob. You can speak for yourself.
But we haven't really had a setup to where we were watching regular TV to begin with. But
no.
So we weren't really watching regular network TV. But so many people were talking about this show. This is us. This is us. So we decided to take a look. And
it's an NBC, or it was. Yeah, it's in the season 1 is over, and they have to come back with the season 2. There's a cliffhanger.
Sure, yeah.
That they set up the entire season.
And we're going to try really hard not to do a lot of spoiler alerts for anybody who might not have seen the show.
Right. And we're not going to review the show. We're not here talking about...
No, but...
We're not Siskel and Ebert.
Although it's a good show.
It is. It's engaging. I certainly have some problems with some of the characters and storylines, but it is definitely entertaining and engaging television.
It's a touching
It might as well
show.
be an HBO show.
Yeah.
That's why it being NBC just shocks me.
Yeah,
because NBC and ABC, they don't make hard-hitting stuff. And it's not the... This is pretty hard-hitting, I would say. It's very emotional.
It deals with some pretty strong...
It runs the gamut. It deals with death. It deals with life. It deals a lot with death.
Yeah, it does. And we
and it deals a lot with relationships, which is why we're doing...
There's so many different relationships going on in this series. So we just decided, let's take a gander at some of the relationships and see what we think.
So let's give a quick background or a quick synopsis of what the show is for people who maybe haven't seen it.
Right. And we'll try to keep it generic because I don't want to get into the depths of it for those who haven't seen it. I want to try to spoil it for you. But they're basically, we're dealing with a family. You're dealing with a set of parents who have 3 children. I think it's okay to mention that there are 2 timelines. I don't think that's like a huge...
Sure.
You learn that pretty quickly on.
Right, the present, now and then.
And then, yeah. So in the past, we watched this couple, sort of starting off, and they have their children. And later in the timeline, you're literally watching the children as adults.
I think at all times, every character is 36 years old. I think isn't that...
Yeah.
Anyway, the kid, when we first step into the show, I believe is the kid's 36th birthday.
Yeah.
And then I think when you go back, did the parents have the kids at 36? Something like that. Anyway, two timelines.
Yes.
Now and then.
And then, yes. And they intercut and interchange quite often. So you're not like one
Right.
show is this timeline and they mix and they mingle.
And you get to know
And
all
you
the
get
characters.
to know all the characters. And so not only are you watching the relationship of the parents and then the relationships with the parents and their children, but when their children are adults, you're watching them with their significant other. Or
if they have one.
Right, if they have one, and also if they have a family. So it runs the gamut when it tops. I think it tops lots of shows when it comes to relationships. It's like, wow, there's so many dynamics going on.
I feel like all the characters are very well rounded. For the most part.
For the most part.
they want them to be all very well rounded.
Yes.
The story's fairly deep.
Yes.
Like I said, I had some issues with some of the characters, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, let's take a look at
Yeah.
the parents' relationship.
Yeah, we thought we would deal with.
So we've kind of broken this down into.
So there are basically 4 primary. Well, I guess 3 primary relationships, and then there's Kevin.
Stop. There's 4 primary relationships, and then there is one sub relationship, but it's pretty up there. I mean, I would say there's 5.
Right.
So
we'll just start chronologically. Let's start in the 70s with Jack and Rebecca.
Yeah. Let's talk about them in the context of. Do we think that, or let me ask Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that their relationship is on the realistic side or more so?
At times, I think that it is, and then at times it feels like it was written by a Hollywood writer.
Or a writer. We don't know where the writer comes from. But yes.
I don't feel like it's not an unbelievable relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It does hit a lot of the points that a lot of writers like to hit when they deal with relationships, about how people struggle financially, how pregnancy takes people by surprise, which isn't always the case in every relationship, but it's sort of, I feel like it does hit all of those points of nostalgia when,
well, it hits.
They're presenting an idea of
Well, they hit the basics on what most relationships fight over. Well, if people are going to have disagreements,
sure, fair enough.
Or then it's going to be surrounding usually finances, starting a family, that the honeymoon phase being over in relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Jack is an architect, and Rebecca is a singer, and she's played by Mandy Moore. And the guy that plays Jack, he was on something else.
Yeah, Milo.
I don't know what he was on. What was he on?
I know Milo from Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls. Yeah, I didn't watch Gilmore Girls.
I like Milo. But But do you think so? What
is their relationship realistic?
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
At times it's not.
Yeah.
At times it seems too easy, and at times it seems too difficult. Like at times I feel like they wrote it to like the world is crashing down, and nobody would be able to get through. It does run the gamut of emotions.
Wait, are you saying that the scenarios they find themselves in, nobody would get through, or are you saying that it's written as if nobody?
No, maybe I'm just saying it feels trite.
Or overly dramatic?
On how dramatic that they go with some of these things.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you're in it, maybe it feels that way.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with, especially because this relationship seems to span a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. They have a lot of facets that they're dealing with, like you do in any kind of relationship. But they deal with a lot of things, and some of them are heavy.
Certainly.
But I understand. I understand what you mean. I think that, what I find, and maybe we wouldn't watch it if, and I don't mean you and I would certainly watch, but maybe as a whole, the public would not watch it if there weren't these moments. But there's always these grand gestures that happen.
That's true.
In relationships, where
particularly in one relationship that we haven't we haven't quite gotten to yet.
Yeah,
but there
are things that.
Sorry, but there is the moment in an episode where it's his birthday and she's very pregnant and she needs to do something very unique for him, and there's like this comedy of errors on her trying to do that.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit. I don't know how I felt about that.
Yeah, that didn't bother me, but I think about one of his gifts to her that it involves. Try not to be a spoiler.
I'm trying to think of what you're talking about.
But it doesn't really matter that
okay.
even if you don't remember. But there are these grand gestures that happen sometimes that I feel like, it's that moment that makes, people go, oh,
mm-hmm.
oh, so.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, and I'm not saying that I know there are romantic people out there and they will go above and beyond. And I'm not saying that, but it is one of those things where I'm like, man, how could you pull this off in real life?
Sure.
Kind of a thing. But I have to say, as far as their relationship goes, that happens minimally in comparison to a lot of other. I think there are some definite moments that these two have that I feel like, yep, spot on for whether it's, a disagreement, whether it's figuring out how to communicate together,
mm-hmm.
Whether it's having that moment of going, my family is important to me. They're more important than this, than whatever,
right.
They have their selfish moments or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have that moment of going, what am I doing? This,
sure.
And I think people do that. I think that's more on the scale of, I think that it's hard to say because the way this season ended, we have yet to see this relationship through.
Right.
But from what we've seen right now, I would say that they're not perfect. They're not at all perfect.
No, and their relationship does not bother me.
Right.
Like a lot of relationships that are written for the screen,
Mm-hmm.
Or in music or whatever.
TV,
They don't. I don't roll my eyes when I see it. Unlike, let's maybe talk about the next relationship, which would be this one here. Which would be.
You love this one. Yes, go.
There's no love.
You take the
here.
lead on this one.
You know which one we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, is it a spoiler to say that they have 3 children? Of course not. So they have 3 children,
no,
and in the present timeline, the now timeline, they have Kevin, Kate, and Randall. And we're going to talk about Kate first. Kate is the daughter.
Yes.
And her character, I feel like her entire character is written around her weight.
So far.
I mean, and we've seen an entire season, which is 14 or so episodes.
Right.
And
it's her journey. Her journey.
Certainly.
All 3 kids
have their thing.
Whatever
that
their
is.
Thing that they're working through.
Bear.
Right. Their cross to bear. It's good. Yeah, that they're working through. And hers is centered around, her health. Let's just say her health.
Her health.
Yeah.
So she goes to meetings, Overeaters Anonymous, or I'm not sure what the actual meeting is. And she ends up meeting a guy in the meeting named Toby. Mm-hmm. And Toby pursues her.
Yes.
And
Rather aggressively.
in his pursuit of her, when you want to talk about grand gestures,
I know this is
this
the line.
guy,
I know.
it's as if he has disposable income for he does these big grandiose things. His personality is big and grandiose, which really gets on my nerves. He's one of those characters that's always on. He's one of those guys that
he's
has
funny,
no
charming.
he knows he's funny.
Yeah.
He's funny and he performs.
Yeah.
In any situation. He has no tact in the sense that maybe we don't want to hear your jokes right now. Maybe we're in church
okay.
and it's not time to be Mr. Silly Man.
All right. Okay. All right.
I hate Toby.
How about we talk about their relationship?
Anyway.
So, yeah, I think what you're the path that you started on.
Okay, that's just a setup. So,
this is a relationship that definitely speaks about grand gestures. The male character, so the Toby character, is certainly going out above and beyond.
That's right.
To try and impress and woo and all of this stuff for Kate, which in itself, for those who are like, what's wrong with that? Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is a far cry from my belief, realistic expectations. Now, yes, I'm going on somewhat of my experience, but also, I mean, I have a community, and I certainly have had friends where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the sweetest thing, that their spouse did or boyfriend did.
Right.
But like every night is a bit.
Yeah, there's got to be an off switch or at least a volume switch.
I mean,
this guy's turned up to 11.
Yeah. Yes.
All the time.
All the time. Like, and he can figure out how to do these things and be in these places and show up. And like you said, there's no real. They haven't. I don't know that they've ever really said what he does in terms of career. We kind of know a little bit of what Kate did, but both of them seem to have no issues with just sort of.
Neither of which are money makers.
But it just seems like.
Well, in saying that, I'm not a big fan of.
They can do whatever they want.
Of Toby, I do like Kate, and I like her reaction to shut him down. Because he will do something, and he's like, what's wrong? Why don't you think that my big grandiose gesture? And she's like, I didn't ask for it. I did, and it's like, yeah, good. So I do like is that she knows how to put him, sort of turn his volume down, but it doesn't seem to sink in because the next literally the 2 seconds later, he's making his jokes and all of that stuff.
But I can. But to piggyback that a little bit, it is nice to see her say those things simply because there are times where people, I kind of coach sometimes about this, where people will do something or whatever. And don't get me wrong, it is nice to be acknowledged. I think everybody likes a little bit of acknowledgement and whatever, but there is that moment of, going out of your way and doing things, and then like when somebody's not reacting, it's just like, but you chose to do this for them without any kind of and so it's either freely done, right, without any expectation, or it's I just feel like there are times where you're like, but I didn't ask you to do all of these things. I didn't even say I wanted any of it done. And though it's nice and it's kind and it's whatever, but I think there is some level of listening that doesn't happen in this relationship, which is extremely important in a relationship, period. And that's any kind, not just lover relationships, any kind. So I would say this is one that is not very realistic. She as a character, I give you that Kate as a character is a little bit,
One thing about their relationship is it seems to me that she asks very little of him, and he asks a ton from her. He wants to know her life story. She there are certain things that she just doesn't want to talk to him about. She doesn't want to talk to anybody about. Well, she's got her past and her baggage, and he's like, I don't know if I can be with somebody who can't tell me can't open their entire soul, and it's just like.
Well, I think that's.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
don't
just
think
like
that's asking too much, though.
it's not asking too much, but with him, it feels so quick.
Yeah,
we're just like,
he's
relax,
definitely-
buddy. Come on, give her a second.
They actually, I think this particular relationship is written very quickly. In terms
oh my
of,
gosh, it's
a very Romeo and
whirlwind.
Juliet relationship.
It's
in that
so fast.
It's escalated very quickly within the season, and I agree with you. I feel like Toby's character is on a very different timeline than her character, but but I don't think that him asking for her to be open.
No, that's not an unrealistic.
That's I
request.
can understand that.
What I'm saying is,
But he was moving very rapidly for that to
entirely
happen.
too fast, and
Yeah.
it was not respecting the fact that she was having issues.
Their relationship to me speaks
Because he knew that she had issues with this specific topic. Because there comes a point in the season where she's like, "I'm not interested," and he totally just, kind of like overshadows the whole thing, and then it's like, "What did I do wrong? Like, I told you I wanted to."
I wish that you guys could see Peter's face right now. He clearly
I'm not a big
does
fan.
not like.
I think Toby
Toby.
reminds me of some people that I know.
Perhaps
That-
maybe you need to talk to someone. about
Maybe
it.
I do.
What I was gonna say is that I think their relationship is a good example of boundaries.
Right.
There is not a lot of respecting boundaries
on
that
his,
happens.
on his part.
Mostly-
She seems to be.
Mostly on his part, but there was a time where she did not respect a boundary, and out of, I would say, insecurity for sure on her part. So no, I think that they deal a lot with that of struggling through setting healthy boundaries. I just can't tell if it's scripted that way. To say
Hard
whether
to
or not
say.
that the writers are writing it that way to bring up the fact like, oh, there's some boundary issues here. I think that it's just written. But that's something that I see when I look at that relationship for sure. But it is definitely on the more scripted scale than oh yeah, you know this couple. You know?
Right.
Where you feel like you there's some relatability there. Let's move on.
We're talking about boundaries and rules and throwing all of that out the window. Let's talk about Kevin. Kevin is the Hollywood actor sibling.
Yes.
Who made it? He got famous on a TV show.
Yeah.
And has since moved to New York.
Yes.
And
to
he's
sort of
kind of
change his career a little bit.
He's sort of your. I feel like the writers or whatever he wants to be in a relationship without all of the rules. He wants to be a single man, or he wants to live that single guy lifestyle. He's the character that bounces. He's sort of like,
you see him in multiple relationships for sure. Yeah,
at least 3 that I can think of.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have stability, I guess. And it's weird because if you hear me talk about Toby, I think I like Kevin even less than I like Toby. Because I've definitely met people like that.
like Kevin.
Like Kevin.
Yeah.
But, he does... He seems to fall hard and quick for the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
At least the first one. The
Yeah.
one there was a big season arc of like 4 episodes where this one particular woman was his focus, and we're both like, what? And
Yeah.
there was nothing genuine about this person. But then again, how much is genuine about Kevin? Maybe they were perfect.
Yeah, like because the show to me was such a surprising gem that there is a little part of me that just wants to believe that character is going to have a deeper something to him later down the road. It didn't happen in the first season. But then the other part of me, and that's the more critical part, is like, but they were trying to, and it wasn't believable. Like
it was very late.
All the characters
His arc
certainly
happened.
have arcs within the season.
Sure.
And his arc, well, let me say the most maybe honest decision he makes, you're just like, what? Like, you know, I mean, it introduces a new relationship that is just like, what's happening? But also, it just doesn't, you just don't buy it. You don't buy that he is making this decision because he suddenly has grown up, if you will.
I feel like the writer spent so much time on Jack and Rebecca and the relationship that we haven't gotten to yet, which is Randall and Beth.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, Kate and Toby. I just feel like they were like that Kevin's been he's sort of an afterthought.
He's the middle child.
He's the middle child, but he's also an afterthought to the writers. They're like, oh yeah, there's we have to write a story.
No, he's
we
the
need
older. He's the oldest one.
Is he the first one out?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, but he, as far as the writing goes, they're like, oh yeah, we better write some stuff for Toby or for Kevin, because his whole storyline, just the whole being an actor and then wanting to be taken seriously and all of that stuff, it's just it's so incomplete
on paper. on paper, like I want to believe that this character could exist, and what I mean by that is certainly we know single people that have dated several people. Like, that's not news. That's not a surprise. That happens. It's just, like Peter says, he's a successful actor, right? Out of this family, he's one that makes it, if you will. Maybe he's not exactly where he completely wants to be, but he's certainly, people know who he is. They recognize him. He can get into places because of who he is, which realistically, if we were to go there, that circle of people in any market, the actors that like, oh, everybody knows it's such a small percentage. First of all, but okay, great. It happens. So all right, I'll buy that. Okay, so he happens to be in the small percentage that makes it, but it's also just like he's obviously he's to them handsome, and it seems to be that he has no trouble getting he opens his mouth and women fall out. Like, it's just, but nothing about him in the way that he's scripted says that would happen. I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, the thing that
it's just not
that I notice
realistic.
Is that the way that it's written is that every woman he meets, he ends up dating. Every woman that the writers put in his path, like when, spoilers aside, but when one relationship doesn't work out, literally, like they're in a place to where the other woman in the house becomes his new thing.
Yeah,
and it's just like, God, come on.
I guess even though if you were to say from that character's point of view, he struggles, certainly. So I don't want to say he has an easy life, but everything is coming a little too easy.
Oh, he's got more money than knows what to do with.
Well, I mean, he's successful here. He decides to go to New York because he wants to be taken more seriously, but he doesn't really know that much in the theater, but just happens to land a pretty good role
because of who he was back in.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's really not he's not really well thought of, especially in the theater community. But here he lands a really good show that's going to, like, it's a show that's going to be, popular. And then so that happens. And then and then he actually, once he does the show, he's told he's amazing, and then gets a movie deal offered by a really famous director, right?
His wrap-up is on season 1.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
It was let me just say, the wrap-up is everything is fallen his way.
Yeah.
And that is where I'm just like, but so the little things that do happen to him that character would say is a struggle is laughable.
Yeah.
compared
Most
to
people
the
would not.
rest of his family.
Most people would not consider his life to be a struggle. Most people would want his life,
But compared
and then would want to do it, but do it right.
but
Where-
but compared to his family, certainly his is the most trivial
Oh,
of everything
agreed.
that's happening. And that's the part that becomes, when we're watching the show, that's a little bit like, oh yeah, we're watching. Okay, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
We need the character that makes you laugh. You need the character that,
But he's not funny. He makes you laugh because he makes bad mistakes.
but not
He makes bad decisions.
He's not funny to us, but we're talking about a general population of people. He's the lighter character. He's sort of like that Kevin,
No. Yeah.
right?
Mm.
All
Well, let's move on from Kevin because there's really not a whole lot that we could talk about because
right, let's move on.
we don't want to spoil anything. And anyway, so I think both of our favorite relationship by a long shot, and the most well written. I think between Jack and Rebecca, they're written very well as well. But Randall and Beth.
Yes. Yes.
I think that their relationship is real. It's cute, and they're good for each other. But they know how to, they know how to snap back when they need to.
Yeah.
They know how to keep things, on an even keel.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's always in charge. It's truly is. It's a good.
They are a
it's
team.
An equal partnership.
They are.
They have their
team.
children. They're raising their kids, and he's a successful Wall Street guy. Nobody's quite sure what he does.
He's like a forecaster, kind of.
Yeah, he's a Wall Street guy. That's basically, and he's even there's a
I
joke.
don't know Wall Street. Is it Wall Street? I would say corporate, but
but
whatever.
There's a joke about like nobody really knows what he does.
Right.
But he does very well for himself. He's unapologetic about it.
Well, he's worked hard for it.
He's worked very hard for
Yeah.
it. And he and
Beth.
Beth, they're cute.
Oh.
They're sassy. They're fun.
Yeah.
And when things get real and serious, they really deal with it. I mean, it's not just brushed aside like some poorly written show. I mean, they're like I said, of all the relationships, I feel like theirs and the Jack and Rebecca,
Their parents,
they're the most well written storylines.
Yeah, the thing about Randall and Beth is, and the same thing with Randall's parents, Randall, Kate.
Excuse me.
Pardon our
Technical difficulties.
The thing between Randall and his parents, Kate and Kevin, their parents, is that what they deal with is also, they deal with the most between Kate and Kevin and Randall. Randall deals with, he certainly has had the most, I don't want to say grief, but I mean, even though he deals with that to some degree, but he has had the most trauma out of the three.
He's arguably struggled the most.
Yeah.
In his childhood, growing up, for multiple reasons.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like his character has just been through, and Rebecca and Jack go through a lot together too, and I think that's why these two relationships appeal to us more because, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, life happens, and there's so much that goes on, and the ups and the downs, and the back and the forth of life. And these two relationships really show how that affects people, how that affects relationships. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I agree with you. I love Randall and Beth, but they are written a little too perfect.
Oh, well, certainly. I have my, like I said, I have my problems with.
Yeah, I mean, and
I think all the characters I have some problems with.
But not like too perfect where it's unrealistic though. To me, they are like, yes, that's what a relationship should be.
Exactly. Their dialogue, the way that they banter, it's very clever. It's written. It's written dialogue, and nobody talks like that. Nobody has the answers
Yeah,
the back
it's
and
quick.
the ping
they're
pong back and forth, and it's all perfectly poignant and all. Nobody
and
talks
timely,
like that.
Yeah,
But that's the TV part of it. That they have to do
sure.
that.
That's what I mean. That's the entertainment part.
Yes.
But
I agree with you though.
having
they are
said that, it's still a relationship that I think, in my heart, I want to believe is obtainable.
Agreed.
Because the way they handle things as a team, the way they look at things, even when they have a disagreement, it is on the most healthiest level that I would say is like, yeah, that if that can exist, that's what everybody should strive for.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I don't. There's so much that I could say about them, but I mean, you pretty much said most of it.
What I do. Hey, what? I hate everybody else in the show. So
I don't. But no, they are just like you said, they are a team. They work together. They make decisions together about their children.
Equals. They're and that's what in a relationship.
Yeah.
They're truly on the same footing.
Yeah, and when they're not, they certainly quickly figure out why they're not and get it together. Like they just.
And you don't see that with Kate and Toby. With Kate and Toby, I'm always wondering when they're going to break up.
Yeah, you do. You kind of feel like they're always on the verge of breaking
and
up
with Kevin,
to a certain
that guy's
degree.
just a mess. That guy's just a train wreck. Like he's in and out, and like how his arc at the end is like.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what happens with that in season 2, and maybe that's
But with Randall and Beth, you just see the strength of a really healthy relationship, I think.
Right. And then with Jack and Rebecca.
Yeah.
They're written similar in the way that it's all very poignant. They know they're written. They know exactly. Nobody gets tongue-tied. People get tongue-tied in life. You have an argument and you don't always know the best thing to say. And then like 10 minutes later, you're like, oh, I should have said this. Or, hey, babe, I really meant to say this.
Right.
It's never like that on TV. It's always exactly the right thing because a writer has time
I don't know. I think Jack and Rebecca do a pretty good job of that.
Okay.
I feel like that their arguments are pretty, like one of the big arguments they have towards the end of the season, I was like, yep. They were all over the place.
That's true.
All over the place. They were angry. They were like, and then there was this frustration, and there was sadness, and there was things that were said, and it was like, what? And then it was like, and the reality of that argument was the next day, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it is said, like, we can't take that stuff back.
Right.
Though we might feel bad and we need to.
It was honest.
It was honest because it's out there and you can't take it back. And I was like, that's not something that gets dealt with a lot. That's not how, that was an unexpected way. You expected them to obviously be like, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Right.
And the music swells. And all that stuff.
Right. But that did not happen.
Yeah. And the inevitable kind of happens with that. And they continue on the path that they're on.
Yeah. So that I think was smart writing. Again, I mean, there are just moments, for the most part, there are glimpses into these relationships that I think are definitely rooted into reality. Obviously more than others. I know you have another relationship that you want to talk about, but for those who haven't seen it, I think it's a little bit of a spoiler. So we're not going to talk about that one.
And it's not even a romantic relationship, so
it's not. But neither would. I mean, their parents aren't either. But I don't. This show has so many.
Their parents aren't either.
No, I meant like we're talking about the kids' parents. The parents have a love relationship, obviously, but. We really didn't get into how the parents and the kids interact, but there is.
Right.
I mean, that's a relationship in itself.
There's another character named William that we'd love to talk about, but we don't want to spoil anything, and it's a good show. I would highly recommend it. We pretty much marathoned it over about a month. I think. Yeah. We tried to keep up with it as it came out, but then some life happened. Yes. And then we had to catch up again.
Life certainly happened.
Life always happens.
Yes.
But it was a show, and we had heard, and that's the problem with marathons. We had heard that the season finale was a letdown, and so I had that in my head, like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And then we got there, and I was like, I don't think it was a letdown.
No, not at all.
I think that it was like a guarantee for a second season, and people were mad that a storyline wasn't wrapped up.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not a letdown. That's just a.
But for me, and for me, I was like, but I'm glad it didn't wrap up. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I wasn't ready to see how this completes. So, I think we both agree that yes, just in itself, the show is a really good show. It's worth watching, guys. And we don't say that very often.
Yeah, and we rarely agree on.
We rarely, and actually, that's true. We rarely agree on things.
Ultimately, I really do like it, although I have issues with it. But that doesn't mean you take all those issues. It's still solid. It's a solid show.
Yeah.
I hate saying for NBC or for. I mean,
it's just
throw that all away.
It's a little bit of a.
It's still good.
Yeah, and it's not that we are trying to demean network. It's a little bit of a diversion from what you normally see.
Exactly.
On network primetime, but this is, I think it is a really good. It has very good moments of healthy relationships, non-healthy relationships, boundary issues.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are things that people can recognize in both red flags,
mm-hmm.
but also, things to start thinking about in your own relationships. Like, do we communicate well? Are we a team?
Right.
You and I are definitely not, but
no.
But we have something to look forward to next season.
We're like the Globetrotters.
Shenanigans?
Yeah. We couldn't make it on better teams. And so we're a circus act, basically.
No, but I mean, I think this is a show that I could see myself saying, this moment right here is a teaching moment.
Right.
Or rooted into whatever. So yeah, I think this one kind of. I'm gonna say this one stacks up.
I agree.
Overall,
I'm looking forward to the second season. Hopefully they don't take too long with it before people forget.
Nah.
But yeah, it's multiple storylines. I mean, it's good TV, I think. And
although it made us
some
weep up. God.
There's some tough moments.
Yeah.
There are some tough moments. There's one episode that's just a tough one to get through.
It's gut-wrenching.
But it's a great episode. It's one of the better.
Yeah.
It's one of the better episodes.
And the way that was handled, I would say from experience, was very close to spot on.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like, it wasn't too dramatic, and it wasn't I liked it. Peter and I's. Yeah, our what do we always say? Like, we were always like, hate this show, because we were constantly like having to grab tissues and Kleenex. It's like, the show.
So go out and watch.
So go out and watch it.
And
I'm not saying compare your relationship to these by any means, but I think there's some little gems that you can find in this show that make you go, in a good way.
Agreed.
So I don't know what we're gonna.
Yeah,
we haven't do next week.
We haven't decided what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks, but we'll come up with something good.
Maybe a quiz.
Yeah, maybe.
It's been a while.
We've been meaning to do this episode for a while now, so we finally got this one out. All
right, guys.
Yeah.
See you in 2 weeks with, I don't know, relationship surprise.
I guess so.
All right. You've been listening to Verbally Naked. I'm Angel Davis.
I'm Peter Hermes.
And as always, live big.